Parrish. Welcome back. CBS Sports, Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, and leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, Brandon Davies, go ahead and shout. Hold on, buddy. What is going on? Technical difficulties. My glasses started blaring the Eye on College Basketball podcast right into my ear. Woo! That was something. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, smash like Braden Davies. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, please also do that wherever you subscribe to podcasts like Apple and Spotify. All right, I think everything's cool now. Let's get into it. And I hope you like gambling scandals, because that's where we're starting on this Friday morning, and that's because on Thursday morning, federal prosecutors charged 26 people, including several current and former college basketball players, in an alleged point-shaving scheme. According to the indictment, more than 39 college basketball players on at least 17 different Division I teams either fixed or attempted to fix more than 29 games. The teams are low majors, mid-majors, and hilariously, DePaul. Among the players involved is the preseason Conference USA Player of the Year, Simeon Cottle from Kennesaw State. Norlander, it is good to see you on this Friday morning. I think I ran us through the basics. Why don't you fill in the details, and then we'll talk about this for, I don't know, probably 10 minutes longer than we should.
Well, yeah, we'll see on that. We've got another bona fide FBI-related massive scandal in college sports. This is a different one from the one that broke infamously, notoriously in September of 2018, in a very different era for college sports. This one is a lot of what GP just laid out here. Shockingly enough, yes, we have four recently active players, including the preseason CUSA Player of the Year, Simeon Cottle at Kennesaw State, who was dropping 20 a game this season, that were named in the indictment, and all the players the four that were playing this season obviously have since been suspended. We actually don't have info on, it's an indictment. It's a federal indictment with charges laid down. I'm presuming that all of the people involved were formally arrested, but we actually don't have that information at this moment. This is a genuinely huge story. When we did the year in review just 2.5 weeks ago on this podcast, I wrote a thing for .com. I put, in essence, this story at number 11, and the only thing that I said that didn't put it in the top 10 was we hadn't had arrests yet, and there weren't big time names or big time programs involved. Well, now we have had a huge indictment come down, and I understand if a lot of people watching this dialing in, they're like, man, this is Kennesaw State and Queens. This is Buffalo, Western Michigan. This is Robert Morris, Purdue, Fort Wayne. Like, I'm looking at these games, and if you want to know the games that were allegedly compromised, that's at the bottom of the story that you can read at .com right now. Nichols McNeese State, February 17th, 2024. Folks, it is bigger than that. Game fixing has affected the NBA in multiple high-profile cases, as GP, as you know. Pitchers at the Major League Baseball level have been alleged to have thrown some of their own pitches in an effort to affect their own prop bets here. And now we have this with college basketball. And when you take this in totality, the fact that you have that many players, at least 29 games that were alleged to have or believed to have been compromised in the first half, spread or the overall game, it is the most widespread game fixing scandal in the history of college athletics. I know we don't have a big school involved. I know we don't have big stars involved. That doesn't mean, one, it hasn't happened and it hasn't been found, and two, that it can't happen again. So this is an important story. It's a terrible look, obviously, for college basketball, and it's kind of two things happening at once here. We're thankful that it gets caught, because of the third-party watchdogs that monitor all of this stuff like diligently with these super high-level algorithms that pick up on any irregular betting patterns. Like, it's just instantly flagged, because that's just the way the analytics work with this. And then obviously the casinos don't want to lose money on this. The sportsbooks don't want to. They are quite literally trained and programmed to pick up on anything that is abnormal and then investigate it. Okay, the red flags go up. But also, so you catch all this stuff, but it's also just how pervasive gambling has become in our culture. This is not a surprise when the Supreme Court overturned the case that essentially allowed a majority of states. Now, not every state, you can't gamble in every single state. In some states, you can't necessarily, like, I don't bet, so I don't know. But I'm pretty sure in Connecticut, like, anyone that's a UConn fan, I think you can't bet on UConn in the state if you're inside the state's boundary, so to speak. But that hasn't stopped the massive, widespread proliferation of gambling. And to me, in the culture, GP, it induces things like this to happen. So I'm not surprised by it. It's good that it was caught. I don't think that the story is necessarily done. I think there very well could be a few other players that haven't been named yet, and some separate stuff that could still come out later this year. Charlie Baker put out a statement yesterday. I mean, they were ready for it. He basically said everyone that was named in today's indictment, or most that have been named in today's indictment, have already been banned by the NCAA, or their cases were already under review. It's just the NCAA's court, obviously different than the freaking feds. There's a lot to go with here. It is objectively hilarious how stupid some of this was. It wasn't one person dropping down $420K on a Kent State game because you had a literal a criminal conspiracy where multiple people would log bets at different spots to try and collectively get the numbers up and all that. But the idea that you had six figures regularly being wagered on these games and you thought that you weren't going to get caught, that's wild. And then two people at the center of this, Mars Fairley and Shane Hennon, they are also central bad actors in the Terry Rozier, Chauncey Billups, massive NBA illegal gambling ring poker thing. That story from October, they're also actually have affiliations with that as well. So there's a lot of places to go with here. Obviously not a good story for college basketball. Good that it was caught. But I don't think this marks the end of it. In fact, I think in many ways, this may be, I hope it's not the case, Parrish, but this could be a thing in our American sports culture where we are living with this in perpetuity. We just get a story like this every 8 to 14 to 18 months where some sport, college basketball, college football, pro baseball, football, hockey, who knows? We just see something like this pop up again because of how commonplace and how easy it is now to bet on games, to bet on first half lines, to bet on prop bets, which the NCAA is still diligently trying to get off the board forever with the help of Congress. It remains to be seen if that can or will happen anytime soon.
Whether you're Charlie Baker or Adam Silver, I imagine what you're hoping is that these arrest indictments being so public that it scares people straight, like exactly what you just said takes hold. Hey, you can't get away with this. It's going to get flagged. If anybody's trying to make any real money off of this, it's going to get flagged. When it gets flagged, they're going to trace it back to you. You'll be the next one to be in a national headline. And I do think that probably works on some level, but not entirely. Not entirely. Yeah. And, people can focus on the fact that this is mostly low major and mid majors, but all you have to understand is that it has also happened in Major League Baseball. It has also happened in the NBA. Multimillionaires with multi-million-dollar contracts have been caught up in this stuff as well. That is evidence enough that just because we haven't seen it in the Big Ten or the SEC yet, theoretically, doesn't mean that we can't or won't. The indictment is fascinating to read. Poor Chris Holtmann, this guy. Like one day you're coaching at the Ohio State University. Fast forward, you got three dummies trying to throw a game. You're the head coach at DePaul. Like what? The game was February 24th, 2024. February is a rough month for Chris Holtmann. A man got fired on Valentine's Day. Now he's got three knuckleheads trying to manipulate the outcome of a game in February 24th, 24. So Georgetown was favored in the first half by 2.5. All the money comes in, Georgetown minus 2.5. DePaul has to make sure that's right. These three players are involved. Georgetown's up 41-28 at the break. That's a winner.
Just so we're clear, I think Holtmann was not the coach at the time of the game. This is before he was
no, boo!
Yeah.
Boo! Well, it was a better story that way.
Okay, no, that was Tony Stubblefield. No.
Okay, well, I liked it better when I could feel sorry for Chris Holtmann. That's on me.
As I sent out yesterday though. Listen, DePaul had some players allegedly, throwing games, but even that, just catching strays in a federal indictment from DePaul is just, mwah. It's the exact. Hold on, I'm going to read this real quick here. Okay, so after this game, defendant Bradley Ezewairo, sorry about the butchering of the name there, attempted to recruit several additional players on other NCAA men's basketball teams to participate participate in the scheme in text communications with defendant Jalen Smith. Continue. They included defendant Deshaun Nelson, a player on the DePaul University men's basketball team, specifically on or about February 24, 2024. The defendant sent Smith a screenshot of an internet page with a photograph of defendant Nelson and his basketball statistics from DePaul. Defendant tested, quote, worst team in the Big East, and quote, he ready to tap in to the point shaving scheme right now. Defendant Smith responded, alrighty, got him. As described below, as part of a scheme, defendant Nelson helped fix multiple NCAA men's basketball games. Worst team in the Big East.
It's just
poor DePaul.
If somebody told you 2 days ago, hey, there's going to be one power conference team, there are going to be a lot of schools caught up in this stuff. One power conference school. What's the perfect one? You'd be like, probably DePaul. I guess DePaul. It'd probably be DePaul. You know, we've been talking long enough. You know how I feel about Division I men's basketball. I think it is way, way, way too big. The idea that, you know, I don't even want to name the school. I'm not trying to disparage anybody, but whoever is ranked 342nd in the country right now, the idea that that school should be competing for the same championship as Kentucky and Duke and Kansas is ridiculous. All right. And this is a byproduct of that on some level. Do you know why it's so easy to bet on Kennesaw State games? Because Kennesaw State is a Division I men's basketball program. But should it be? And I don't mean it about Kennesaw State, but like there's an interesting dynamic here that others have laid out with NIL playing a role. You're a college basketball player now. You are watching some of your former AAU teammates get $1 million contracts, right?
Yes.
At power conference schools.
Yeah.
You weren't good enough to go there, so you end up at the low major school. And NIL is not even a thing there. And your team's not any good. Like you're losing anyway. And suddenly somebody's like, I can get you 30 grand cash. And buddy, I don't even need you to lose the game. All I need you to do is be behind by 4 at the half and then go beat them by 40 in the second half. I'm not asking you to throw a game. Like, no, people are going to act like, oh, you're going to throw a game. You're not throwing a game. You're just falling behind this many points by the end of the first half and then go win the game. And then so you're okay. We're not, you know, I don't have to throw the game. I just have to be behind by this many points at the half. We'd probably be behind by that many points at the half anyway. So what am I really manipulating? Like it's easy to see how you get down this path. And as long as we are putting point spreads on games, because they're Division I, between teams ranked 285th in the country and 314th in the country, you're going to be susceptible to stuff like this. And I do not think it's coincidental that it is almost entirely low major and mid majors. That is where that is the easiest and most obvious place to go target people for this. Exactly.
You're correct all the way. The central bad actors in this story were paying out $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 per game, allegedly, to these players, most of whom weren't on any NIL deals, or if they were, minimal at best. Also, the other part of this, how this started, again, you can read all this at .com, but Antonio Blakeney, who I remember seeing on the circuit more than a decade ago. So you see his name pop up in this story, you're like, whoa. Was teammates with Ben Simmons, played at LSU, 5-star prospect, and actually spent some time with the Bulls. He's been, you know, a few years back, he was dropping more than 30 a game playing in China. He links up with Hennon and Fairley and then starts manipulating games. And then that allegedly works enough where they get the confidence to start overseas. So they start in China and then they say, okay, let's take this stateside. Let's, because apparently Blakeney just had enough connections. Again, this is according to the feds, had enough connections with enough people in the United States where they thought, okay, we could get ins. We've got relationships. We could find the right kind of people that we do this super, super discreetly, super quietly. Like just tell your boy over there, 20,000 just not to cover the 6.5 in the first half. They won't find us. They won't know. But then what happens? One, just the irregular betting patterns, and people talk. Any number of things make this thing entirely fall down like the house of cards that it is. And
this is
a wild story from a 5-star prospect to that, to being now one of the main characters in arguably, you know, immediately the most notorious gambling scandal in college basketball history is pretty nuts.
Yeah, I mean, these goofies are never masterminds, you know. Like every time you read about it, it's like, really, you texted that? Like, I mean, I watched enough Datelines to know you can't text that, buddy.
These dudes are not familiar with Signal. The Signal, WhatsApp, encrypted connections did not hit their radar, and so that's another thing that helped bring them down. And in addition to just tracking the bets, they did them in person. These were not offshore. They did these on the phones with sports betting apps, with their web of people.
And something you touched on earlier, it was sort of the focus of Dan Wolken's column over at Yahoo Sports about, like, is this just how we're going to live? And there's plenty of reasons to suggest, perhaps, maybe even probably. And as Wolken pointed out, like, we asked for this. This is what we said we wanted, and now here we are. Now you get
in terms of having that much gambling available at our fingertips.
Hey, man, we need legal sports gambling in America. Why? You can do it in Las Vegas. You can do it in Europe. Why don't we have legal sports gambling in America? And then this state does it. That state does it. Next thing you know, it's everywhere. This is what we said we wanted. And now we got it. I'll read you just a little bit of his column that I thought was interesting. Here's what he wrote. Nearly 8 years ago, when the U.S. Supreme Court struck down the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, the law that essentially limited sports gambling to Nevada, many of us celebrated. If you could bet on sports at a Las Vegas casino, why shouldn't you be able to do it in similar establishments in New Jersey, Mississippi, or Ohio? It seemed like a win for freedom and common sense, not to mention the casino operators ready to get their claws into new clientele. And what exactly did the rest of us win? We want a never-ending deluge of ads for online sports books. We want a generation of young gambling addicts who are ill-equipped emotionally and financially to handle losing money on long shot parlays. We want a disgraceful level of harassment, both in person, at games, and online, from fans toward athletes who didn't help them cash their bets. And we want a subculture of people like the 6 defendants in this indictment who preyed on young basketball players from low-profile teams that saw their peers cashing in on name, image, and likeness deals and became tempted by the promise of easy money. In other words, we lost something too, maybe a lot. I can't argue with much of that.
Nope, I don't argue with it at all either, honestly. Like, it's a Friday show. We're going to do the Final Four in one. Not sponsored by a gambling company today, by the way. And, that segment is always about just previewing the weekend and making ourselves look silly and maybe giving you a few stats or whatever. For the most part, I think people that intake this particular show realize that, where I stand on when it comes to gambling and all that stuff. And yeah, GP might not be able to help himself with the Mets. Maybe.
I listen. I do gamble. I literally take money from gambling companies, right? Yeah. There have been parts of this show that have been sponsored by gambling companies. Yes. Like, we're in it. I'm not going to be a hypocrite here, but I will also always speak honestly about this. I do gamble. It has never wrecked my life, but I have seen it wreck people's lives. People I care about, people I'm close with. I've seen it devastate them, financially devastate them, and then ruin other aspects of their life, mess up their job, mess up their marriage, mess up relationships with children, mess up relationships with family members. So this is serious stuff. I'm never the one out there going, yeah, man, just go gamble all day long and get to the casinos and bet. Everybody's free to make their own decisions. I don't judge, but this stuff can be very, very dangerous and devastating. I have seen it up close.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I'll just extend the PSA by saying, like, if just general life advice, like, do not wager a single cent that you can't afford to lose, obviously. But I do think, to the point of Dan's column, this is probably, like, I don't know how many stories like this have to surface before enough people that actually compete in mainstream American sports get scared enough. If I was a college basketball coach, this story happens, like, practice can wait, literally everything can wait. And I'm taking the opportunity again to say, go read this story, go read that story. You see this clip, you see this podcast, not one of you better remotely be even considering thinking about any of this. You're done. Your life's ruined. You'll never play competitive sports again. Obviously, the vast majority of Division I men's basketball players are not engaging in this kind of behavior. but you never know who is. And I had a conversation with a coach just a couple of months ago talking about a variety of things, but this topic came up. And he admitted, he was like, man, I think my roster's good. And he was like half joking, half serious. He's like, but I'm telling you, like, there have been a couple of times where I've been like, what the hell did I just see on the floor? Like, is that incompetence? How am I supposed to know? Am I going to take my player aside and be like, hey, are you throwing the first half line for us? So, and it was an enlightening conversation. And he was like, you do your best to safeguard against it, but ultimately, if someone's motivated enough to do something, you can't necessarily stop them. So it's not like college coaches are going out there and ignorant. They're very aware of it. And particularly the coach I spoke with is not a high major coach. They are a head coach at a mid-major school who genuinely had some, like, I had to call a couple of my other he mentioned he called a couple other coaches and they admitted to the same worries as well. So this thing is really crept up to the forefront of many a coach's mind. And we wait and see on what happens next. I do think we'll have more from not just this case, but I think there's going to be a few other players that weren't named in this that could pop up, sprout up here in the months to come, if not later in the year. So just keep an eye on that. And until then, we wait and see on prop bets. The NCAA is asking for Congress for help to basically fix its entire existence. I don't know if that is going to happen. It would be a start. I just don't like the idea of any 19-year-old having an over-under of 8.5 rebounds. They grab 7 and suddenly they're just subject to just, an inundation of online harassment and death threats. You got to get that out of the culture as much as you feasibly possibly can, and by eliminating prop bets, you at least do that. You don't fix the notion that someone could be compromised to try and toss a game or toss a line, but at least it's something. Something is better than nothing. But here we are, and this is the first major story of 2026. When we go to the end of the year, we do our year interview. This story will be in the top 10 unquestionably, because this kind of stuff is serious. If you don't have the structural integrity that the competition is honest on both ends, you have nothing. It is the very single thing that every league, Roger Goodell, Adam Silver, Rob Manfred, go down the line. Every commissioner, if you don't have this, you have nothing. You have professional wrestling, and that is where everything crumbles. You need to have your games have structural integrity. If the public doesn't believe it's true, perception can become reality, and then everything begins to fritter away. That's why this story is so important, even lacking high-profile schools, high-profile players, any of that. It's just as important that it was happening at the MAC level and the MEAC level as it would be if it was happening in the Big Ten or the SEC.
If college basketball turns into professional wrestling, we're going to look up one day, they're going to have the Final Four in Saudi Arabia. You ready to cover the Final Four in Saudi Arabia?
I am not.
I bet you somebody's thought about that.
We can keep it moving, but quite literally there have been, not Saudi Arabia, but there have been ongoing plans for a couple of years now to try and get a game or two for a ton of money played in the Middle East in general. And we'll see if that comes to the fore.
So you mentioned the coaches being concerned about seeing incompetence on the court and wondering if it's just incompetence or something more. And I know I've seen other people make note of, hey, it's just like we noted earlier, it's just low major teams and coaches I never heard of and players I never heard of. Well, if you're a fan of a high major team, where do you think your coach came from? Probably a place like this. Like there is somebody, and I don't want to get hyperbolic here, but like there is somebody who possibly is on their way to the type of season that could get them the next job, but they got players in their program that are compromised, and therefore the season doesn't go the way it otherwise would, and you never get the ACC job that you otherwise might have gotten. Like, I'm not saying that happened, but it obviously could. And so, yeah, this is bad stuff. And just to double down on what you said, and then we can move on, you mentioned, hey, like, PSA, if you don't have money to lose, do not gamble with it. I'll take it a step further. Like you won't win. So like, don't even like think about it. Can I afford to lose this? Like, don't even I'm going to lose this. Is it all right if I do? Is it all right when I do? Like, think of it like that. I have a buddy who used to run a sports book, before everybody had the apps on their phone. And like,
I think the correct framing for that is I have a buddy who used to be a bookie. I don't think did he run a sports book, like an actual sports book?
I mean, he if you needed to put in bets, that he was the person you got in touch with type of thing.
That's the bookie.
Okay. How you can describe him however you want. All right. And I asked him one time, I was just picking his brain, and I was like, so how long you been doing this? And he gave me a number, and I said, so how many people play with you regular? Like you would call them regular customers. And he gave me a number, and let's just say it was, it's a pretty big number. And I said, okay, out of all of those people, how many, like at the end of a year or at the end of 6 months or at the end of 2 years, how many are up, like they're winners? He's like, what do you mean? I was like, just like they've been gambling all year, football, baseball, basketball, whatever. At the end of the year, they're up. How many of those customers do you have? 0 was his answer. 0. That guy does not exist. That's what sports gambling is. If you want to know how they can afford to put a commercial on every 30 seconds.
Yes.
Yeah, that's gambling. That's
Correct.
gambling.
I mean, you and I have gone to Vegas, and you go to Vegas, and you're like I'll do a little blackjack. Okay, I'm cool if I go play, have some fun with GP or whomever at the tables for 3 hours. I lose $200. I can whatever. That's what it is. You just have to know what the deal is.
That's exactly right. All right, you think it's time to move on?
Yeah, we actually had some stuff on. We got a Final Four one to do, but before that, GP, we had some stuff on Wednesday that we still have to address because Wednesday was a pretty fun night.
And we're going to start it with Kentucky winning at the buzzer at LSU. But first, let's get a word. Let's see who our partners are.
Yeah,
you never know. You never know.
This isn't just combat. It's cinema.
Ready or not, here I come. Let's go! Are you not entertained?
The new home of UFC, Paramount Plus.
Oh, buddy, Wednesday night was something. I was in studio all night, CBS Sports Network, and we had a buzzer beater and then another buzzer beater and then another buzzer beater. Let's start with your Kentucky Wildcats. Final score, UK 75, LSU 74 in Baton Rouge. We got a buzzer beater that looked familiar to UK fans, I'm certain. Josh, let's watch it together.
With the chance for a big guy to come up and catch the ball. Long throw in, caught by Marino, the jumper. Got it! The Cats come back to win!
Oh, buddy. I mean, that's what you call stealing one on the road, isn't it?
That was an outright theft. 75-74. There was a great floor angle posted by Kentucky. One of their folks in house took it of Colin Chandler through the pass to Malachi Marino, who is not just a little bit beyond the foul line. Yes, shades of Leitner, heavy in that one. Although Rick Pitino took to Twitter within like 3 minutes of the game ending and gave Pope credit for the play design and said, and by the way, there was a guy on the ball. Pitino famously caught grief for not having anyone guard Hill on the inbound pass to Leitner in the 92 regional final in Philadelphia. This was a theft. LSU should have won. By nature of the loss, by the way, LSU has lost 4 in a row, including back-to-back home games. South Carolina, which it should have won and wasn't close, got like down close to 30 in the first half of that game. And then you blow it against Kentucky. Matt McMahon's seat, unfortunately, is hot. Now they've had injury issues. We'll see if they can turn it around, but the schedule is actually tough upcoming. Kentucky's the story. They get it done. They avoid a third loss in 4 games. It is an escape hatch route win here. For Moreno to hit it, for them to come back the way they did, massively impressive. They never led by more than 1 in the game. The final margin, 75-74. They were down by as many as 18 in the second half overall. So it is a good win. And I do wonder, is this just an isolated incident, or is this going to be the thing that shoots Kentucky just into the 7, 8, 9 seed range? They don't have Jalen Lowe for the rest of the season. He's out with the shoulder. Jaden Quaintance didn't play in this game. His availability remains to be seen. Is he coming back soon? Is he going to not return at all? What do they have or don't have with JQ? Those are major factors. A loss here, Kentucky would have been out of the projected tournament picture, I think, although we're still like, we got 2 months to go. So we don't go too nuts on the forecast stuff at this point, but I do wonder if this is a hinge point. You got Tennessee on the road this weekend. We'll get to that in the Final Four and 1. It felt super crucial, dramatic win. The play is highly unlikely to even be successful. Perfectly thrown ball, perfectly caught by Moreno, turns around, shoots, cash, you get the win on the road, you steal it. And now Kentucky fans know there's really been 2 epic games in that building period, the Maravich Center. There was this one, and then famously in the early 90s, Kentucky had just a humongous comeback, the biggest in program history that they did in that building as well. So good on Kentucky, but I don't know if this is a one-time thing or if we look ahead, a month from now and suddenly they're actually kind of rolling, and this was the night where it all changed.
So if you think of it as like a football play, it's like, because it really was like completing a Hail Mary. That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
So like imagine completing a Hail Mary and then you have to turn around and make a basketball shot. Yes. That's what happened. Terrific. And like you see Mark Pope there just seemed like he had 1,000,000 pounds lifted off of him, because I don't know if you were following Twitter on Wednesday night, but he got fired 7,000 times in the first half. I mean, he was fired. They were doing coaching searches. They were starting to track planes already. They were looking for private planes out of Lexington. It was getting rough.
He's not, by the way. Kentucky fans can get as mad as they want. He will not be fired. If famous last words here, they could they're 11-6 right now. They could finish with 14 wins. They're still not firing Mark Pope. And I know it's Kentucky. He's an alum, did good in year 1. You can get frustrated all you want. He's getting to year 3, regardless of how the rest goes.
Right. I understand the frustration. I will never try to talk a Kentucky fan out of being frustrated. I stopped doing that probably, I don't know, at least a decade ago. It never worked. Be frustrated if you want, but yeah, you can't be in the business of firing the captain of a national championship team after 2 years, particularly when year 1 was pretty okay. You know, like that won't work out for you. So he's going to get to year 3 and he'll have a big checkbook to go out and go shopping with, and we'll see if it goes better. This next time. As for whether this is a turning point or not, I don't know. With the state of, it feels like it's just something that we might look back and go, yeah, that was a lucky thing that happened. That was
Kentucky should have lost the game. Like, this was a theft. So congrats on the thievery.
I fear if I were a Kentucky fan would be, you'll look back and go, that was just a lucky thing that happened that calmed us down for a minute. But now we're right back to being the dysfunctional basketball team we've been much of this season. Final score, SMU 77, Virginia Tech 76. We got a Boopie buzzer beater. Josh, let's see it.
For the Mustangs. Into Miller, defended by Hammond from half court.
The Flames. Look at the Flames, by the way. That's awesome.
Flames from the backboard as the ball go through the net. That's perfect stuff from the pyro guy. Oh, by the way, I think I saw an interview with the pyro guy. With the
pyro guy got some love, deservedly so. How about Miller?
Yes.
From the Miller. From the Miller at half court. David B. Miller is the biggest donor. He's why SMU is in the ACC. I love Miller from the Miller. Before we get to the end of this game in general, more impressive, Kentucky's win the way it did it, or Miller from the Miller?
More visually satisfying. Miller from the Miller with the fire.
Definitely, but which is the hardest? Which one was harder to pull off?
The Kentucky thing.
I think I agree with you. Players half court all the time, but you're still half court running. He's running as he shoots it against the clock. It's narrow, but I think the Kentucky one is a harder one to pull off.
Basketball players make that shot all day long. They take it every day and they make it every day. Not 100%, but you get the point. That's not an unusual shot for them. Whereas I think it might be harder to complete the pass on some level that Kentucky had to complete than it is to make that shot. Both high degree of difficulty, but I think the Kentucky sequence harder than the SMU sequence.
Yes. Josh says in our private, Josh, you can post this in the chat too. He said the SMU shot is more difficult. The Kentucky play is more impressive. I would agree with that. Miller from the Miller is awesome. And 2 reminders, never change this rule. Okay. I know. NBA, you get to advance it without actually advancing the ball. I don't like it. Me and DeCourcy have been on Mike DeCourcy of Sporting News, USBWA Hall of Famer. He's an institution. I'm sorry. We get these kind of endings regularly in college basketball. They are thrilling visuals. They lead CBS Sports HQ. They lead SportsCenter. They lead highlight shows because it's not an inbound play from 35 feet away with a guy coming off a double curl screen and they hit a buzzer beater. That's fine too. That's cool. There's still room in the college game for that. You got to make them move the ball up the floor of their own accord. Never change the rule. It's not even up for necessarily changing at this point, but We get this every single week. We've talked about it on the show, but I forget. You're with me, right? Like, there's no need to just say you can advance the ball with the timeout. I know the NBA does it. The NBA can do its own thing. I love that college basketball still has it the old school way.
I think I'm with you. I am not nearly as with you on it as DeCourcy would be. Like, he feels very strongly about it. Like,
Correct.
he will die. He'll die on this hill.
It's going to be like the take is going to go in the ground with him. Like, he's taking this.
Yeah. It will be his final words.
You know how some people when they're sorry, Mike, I think you listen to the fight. You know how some people when they're dead and gone, someone puts a rose on their chest or something. Someone's going to print out the take and put it with DeCourcy. That's what's going to be on his chest.
In honor of Mike. Mike's going to outlive me. I don't even know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So like, there's 100% chance Mike outlives me. But on the off chance I make it, to honor Mike, I'm gonna get my sons, and we're gonna inbound the ball under a basket, and we're gonna go the length of the court and try to make a play with a clock on us.
Love it.
I don't think losing that would devastate the game. Because the counter argument is, you get more realistic buzzer-beating opportunities if you advance the ball. You miss out on Tyus Edney and Christian Laettner, and that's some big stuff to miss out on. Yes. But you get
Jalen Suggs in the Final Four. The list is I'm not exaggerating, like hundreds long of these all-time.
Bryce Drew, it's forever long. So you miss out on that, but what you get in exchange for that is more realistic buzzer beaters more regularly. And so I'm open to both of those things, but if I had to vote one way or another, I would vote yes. Keep it the way it is.
Okay. Hey, SMU's 13-4. Where are they in your top 25-1? This was a brutal loss for Virginia Tech, which actually, hold on real quick. Virginia Tech has lost at home near the buzzer to Wake, at Wake near the buzzer, at home to Stanford a week ago, at the buzzer, and here. Virginia Tech is 2-3 in the ACC and could easily be 5-0. Sorry, Hokies fans, that's brutal. I don't even know the last time that happened at the high major level where you had a team lose. They've lost 3 of the past 4. 3 games out of a 4-game stretch where you lose by the lead switching in the final couple of seconds. I honestly don't know the last time that happened. So that's tough. SMU on the reverse, though. With Boopie Miller back, they're now 13-4. They avoided a 3-game losing streak. Do you have them in your top 25-1? And any other thoughts on the game?
I do. SMU 24, followed by St. Louis at 25, followed by Utah State at 26. So I've had them in there for a while. They were in the top 25-1. The Mustangs were before they got into the AP poll, I believe. So listen, anytime you can flip a loss into a win, that's an awesome moment. When you can do it with fire going off immediately, it makes for an amazing highlight. We had one more on Wednesday night. Mm-hmm. You ready for it? Final score, Ole Miss 97, number 21, Georgia 95. Patton Pinkins was the hero this time. Josh, hit play.
Jiffa to Storr. Storr with 3 to shoot. Turnaround, jumper, no good. Rebound, follow, yes! What a foul! Ole Miss with the win. Pinkins tip.
Good win there. And that wasn't even, it was a putback overtime situation. Georgia's had a really nice season to start. It wasn't even like a missed box out. There was a tip, a wild ball off the glass, and then Pinkins hits it, who is the son of Al Pinkins, just a gem of a man, such a nice guy. Could have been, he's kind of for the most part, a career assistant, has bounced around at a bunch of different spots. Just a really, really great assistant coach and a really good dude. Thrilled for him and his family that Patton was able, who's just a freshman, was able to hit this winner. Get the University of Mississippi Rebels to 10-7. Still a lot of work to do. But, man, that felt urgent because next is at Mississippi State rivalry game this weekend, home to Auburn, at Kentucky, home to Vandy. Rebels are so far from a lock to make the tournament and have been one of the bigger letdowns. So that's a big one for them. Georgia's 14-3, dropped 2 of its past 3, has a big home game upcoming this weekend against Arkansas. That's a stinger, home loss. But Mike White's team on the whole still outperforming. But, yeah, Wednesday night, it was the buzzer beater night. We had 3 high-profile ones at the high major level. Those 2, that last one wasn't as impressive as the first 2, but still Weirdly, nearly as unlikely. When you watch the highlight, the ricochets, the caroms, and then Pinkins, it's one hand on the ball just before time expires in the free session, and yeah, Ole Miss gets the win.
So we got the Wednesday buzzer beaters out of the way. Let's bounce through some other interesting results before we get to the Final Four and one. Texas 80, number 10 Vanderbilt 64. So we're down to just 3 undefeated teams: Arizona, Nebraska, Miami, Ohio. Norlander, let me give you credit. I think you picked Vandy to upset. To get upset at Tennessee, at Texas. If
Correct.
so, I tip my cap to you then. If I had a cap.
I did. You had Iowa State still without a loss like 3 weeks from now. They lost 8 hours
Just
later.
realized I don't think I know how to tip a cap. How do you tip a cap? Is it just like one of these?
No.
It's like
there you
this.
go. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I tip my cap to you.
Tip your cap. I appreciate that. I'll take a hat. I'll take a hat tip. Hat tip. Yeah. Yes. Vandy went down. Texas played back-to-back big wins for Texas, by the way. So Vandy gets knocked from the ranks of the undefeateds. They got a big game. We'll talk about that in the Final Four and one upcoming on Saturday. And the margin was surprising, 80-64. Texas played its best game of the season in what I thought was its most important game of the season, but it was coming off the road win against shorthanded Alabama. But back-to-back wins for Sean Miller's team to go from 9-6 and trending to not making the NCAA tournament to now, okay, you've actually got some footing here. Project as a tournament team in the here and now. You got more work to do. Impressive showing by Miller's group, and they actually have some real juice for the first time this season. So that was mighty impressive. Yes, just down to 3 undefeated teams. We wait and see if Texas can sustain some real success in the days ahead. The chat has been asking for you to address what happened in West Lafayette on Wednesday night. So we can go before we go to out west, because there's a result there I want to talk about. Can we talk about Purdue and Iowa and Braden Smith and Bennett Sturts and get your quick take here?
Number 5, Purdue 79, Iowa 72. Braden Smith scoreless in the first half. There was a moment, because you might remember on Wednesday's Eye on College Basketball podcast, I was like, I've lost my way. I used to be a building truster and 46% Boilermaker. Lately, I'm picking against Braden Smith. I'm picking against Allen Fieldhouse. I need to do some soul searching, look in the mirror, all that stuff. And so I'd almost been like, I don't know if I said I'm sorry, but it felt like an apology to both Allen Fieldhouse and my fellow Boilermakers. Mm. And then there's a point in the first half where it's like Braden Smith ain't scored a point, and Iowa's up pretty big. And I'm like, if I'd have just held out for one more day, it could have all circled back in my favor. But then Braden Smith went wild in the second half. Iowa didn't so much. And Purdue continued to be a one-loss team. Braden Smith finished with 16 points, 8 assists, 2 steals. He was great. He is great. Nobody ever said he wasn't great.
I think you said he wasn't great.
I said he's not tall. I said he's not that tall. But that's all I've ever said. He's obviously great. And I look forward to him breaking the all-time assist record, perhaps in the Big Ten tournament.
Really good game. Purdue winds up with the +7 margin, but Iowa had the lead early and was really comporting itself quite well. Made for a better than expected watch. Iowa now sitting at 12-5, losers of 3 in a row. Indiana road game upcoming this weekend. Another noisy result from Wednesday night and a fun game. As it was going on, I was thinking, like, when's the last time that I was like truly locked in for the majority, if not in the entirety, of a 40-minute game that involves Stanford playing at home? But I was there on Wednesday. Kyle Smith's Cardinals win 95-90 to get to 14-4. They've got the Tobacco Road twofer. They're going to host Duke Saturday, but on Wednesday night, it was the Ibuka Okori show. He might be a top 5 freshman in the country. He's at worst like 7. He had 36 in this game, 9 assists, a pair of steals, only 1 foul, 1 turnover in 36 minutes. Was the key player in a game that also features Caleb Wilson. You've got 2 top 5, 6, 7 freshmen in the game. Wilson went for 26, had 9 rebounds himself, pair of steals. So it was awesome to see them go head to head. They were the 2 most. Visar also had a beast of a game for Carolina. It just wasn't enough credit to Kyle Smith, what he's doing there. That was a big win. Stanford does not rate well in the advanced analytics. It just doesn't. But record-wise, it's doing okay. And Okori is a stud, just a fantastic player. In fact, go ahead, GP, take it away. I had a nugget on him. I'll dig it up. I think I sent it out on Wednesday night. What your impressions of just the game and as you took it in the studio?
Well, I was in studio, and Wednesday night, I never felt the impact of realignment as much in studio as I felt it Wednesday night. What I mean is this. You'll know what I mean. We had like maybe a 10 o'clock tip, Utah State, and then we go live at midnight, and then it's a 30-minute show that re-airs at 12:30, that re-airs at 1, that re-airs at 1:30.
Yeah.
And typically we're waiting on one game, maybe the Zags, maybe we're not waiting on anything. But it was like, we just got to keep doing the show over and over again because North Carolina is still playing. Duke still playing. There was so much going on that started after 9 o'clock to even 10 o'clock on the East Coast that I think I even said to Adam Zucker at some point, I don't remember this many important games happening this late on a Wednesday night. So, yeah, we were locked in on Stanford and North Carolina. Tar Heels are up by as many as 12 and led for in terms 95% of the game. They led for 95% of the minutes. But then it obviously flipped on him, and Okori is terrific, sort of an off the radar freshman in a season where there are so many star-studded, but statistically, I mean, buddy, he's up there. His name comes up a lot.
He was ranked 119th in the class, so not a completely off the radar guy, but not far from a 5-star prospect out of Brewster Academy. Really, really good player to this point in the season. He is averaging, I'll bring this up for you real quick and I'll give you the nugget I had, and then we can get on to the final 4 and 1, because he's a genuinely really fun player to watch. 22.9 points. He's top 5 in the nation in scoring at this point, or knocking on the door of that. 3.7 rebounds, 3.3 assists. Needs to work on his shooting a little bit, but man, he's got a knack for getting it done. Nugget that I referenced before. Okori is the second freshman, according to our CBS Sports research team, in the past 30 years with at least 35 points and 8 assists against a ranked team. The other one was Trae Young against TCU on December 30th, 2017, when he went for 39 and 14 in a game. Okori is absolutely awesome. And to your point, on Wednesday night, at one point after midnight on the East Coast, Arizona was in a scuffle with Arizona State. Arizona won, but it was actually a pretty compelling game. BYU, top 10 team, was losing in the first half after midnight on the East Coast, was losing to TCU. Of course, BYU won. DeBanza was awesome again. Duke was in a battle for a bit. They pulled away, but after midnight, they were in a battle at Cal that was just as hilarious as I expected to be, just seeing that on my screen. One lost. Michigan was in a close game after midnight at Washington. In general, I don't think we have had in a generation a night. I'm including the tournament, because the tournament, you might have 1 or 2 stragglers after midnight, where you had 4 top 10 teams playing a game after midnight at the same time. I'd love to know the last time that happened, because it feels like that never ever happened. So I'm right there with you. I practically fell asleep on the couch. I was exhausted, but it was a fun little change of pace. It doesn't need to be a normal thing. I was dialed in as if it was a Saturday at 2:30 in the afternoon, because, for the purposes of the podcast, for you being on network for HQ, you got to watch. You got to know what's happening here. And Wednesday was even more fun than Tuesday.
And this is something, if you're a baseball fan, you might be used to, your favorite team goes on a West Coast trip, or an NBA fan you might be used to. But traditionally in college basketball, this isn't really supposed to be a thing. Your conference games are, back in the old days, were largely played against schools geographically sensible to you. But now you've got, North Carolina and Duke playing in the Pacific time zone, which means you've got North Carolina and Duke fans, like the diehards, on a Wednesday night up after midnight. That's not ideal. Not to mention college students. But we stopped. Yeah. College students, and I know classes might not have started here or there, or whatever. But you'll get the point. College students who enrolled in the state of North Carolina spend a week in January or February in California. But I think we stopped caring about that stuff a long time ago.
Unfortunately, we did. Yeah.
One notable headline, if not result, from Thursday, I think we should touch on real quick. Gonzaga won at Washington State 86-65. That was a fun game on CBS Sports Network. I had it on late last night. 18-1 now. The Zags are great. The headline, Braden Huff, it was announced pregame.
Yeah.
Going to be sidelined 4 to 8 weeks with a knee injury that he suffered in practice earlier this week. So if you were going, I just watched the Zags play and he seemed fine, it's something that happened in practice. 8 weeks from the announcement is March 12th. The West Coast Conference Tournament Championship games, March 10th.
Yeah.
Selection Sunday is March 15th. So let's hope this is closer to 4 weeks than 8 weeks, because if it's 8 weeks, that's going to have him missing, everything heading into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, that's so minimum of a month. You hope it's short. 4 to 8 weeks is actually a pretty wide spread. Huff is 17.8 points a game, 5.6 boards. Has been a very good player, and I don't know how much it affects them. Maybe the St. Mary's game. Santa Clara is actually pretty damn good this year as well, so we'll see there. But that is a notable injury update for a top 10 team in the country. You get him back in time for the tournament. You got obviously real aspirations of winning a national title, making the Final Four and all that, but we'll see how long he winds up being out. Of course, rooting for the best sooner rather than later.
As I pointed out in the top 25 and 1 on Friday morning, Gonzaga's like 25 spots better than anybody else at KenPom in the WCC. Take St. Mary's, San Francisco, put them over here. They're basically like 90 spots better than everybody else in the WCC. My point being, this might not impact their record much, if at all, but you still want this to be closer to 4 weeks than 8, because you just don't want to try to reacclimate a big piece like this heading into a single elimination tournament. You'd like to have at least a few games before that to get him back into rhythm, get his teammates back comfortable playing with him. So I don't think the time frame is important as it pertains to what seed the Zags will be on Selection Sunday. But I feel better about it if I could get him back in time for 2 regular season games, the WCC tournament, and now we're good to go. So get well soon, young man. You ready to do the Final 4 and 1?
Yeah, it's going to be our shortest one of the season, by the way.
Let's bounce through it quickly. First, let's get one more word from our partners.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
All right, it's time for the Final 4 and 1. Josh, I need you to update us.
I want to
hear
the game, Parrish.
I want to hear about these records. Just update us on these records. Get it in my ear. Soft voice if you got it.
I didn't bring that with me to the office.
Little lower.
I apologize.
Sounds great to me, Josh.
You've set the standard. You've set the standard. I know what you're capable of now, so I feel like
we got to pick games. Like I feel
like you're being lazy. I know what you're capable of now.
Lazy's kind of crazy, but
that actually is kind of crazy.
26, 23 and 1 for Parrish, 23, 26 and 1 for Norlander, and our friend Kyle Boone, strong jaw, 3 and 2 on the records after being involved last week.
Yeah, well, that's a small sample size. So
I might be wrong about Braden Smith sometimes, and I might be wrong about Alan Fieldhouse sometimes. But, buddy, when it's time to pick games, I'm going to knock it out of the park.
All right, let's see how it goes. What's game 1?
Game 1, Saturday, noon Eastern, Kentucky at number 24, Tennessee, inside Dane Bradshaw Arena. You can watch it on ESPN. KenPom has it, Tennessee -6.
That's smaller than you expected?
No. Kentucky still has pretty strong computer numbers.
Yeah.
How about this? That's the KenPom number. I bet you once a Jalen Lowe, Jaden Quaintance is factored in, the number is bigger on Saturday.
Tennessee. That's a one from Tuesday that we talked about. Double OT home win against Texas A&M. 12-5 on the season. Just a beast of a team on the boards. I don't know what Quentin's status is. Is he playing in this? Is he not playing? If he is, it actually genuinely matters to how I would pick the game. But I will say Tennessee gets 6 is a weird number. I'll say Tennessee wins and covers, and we have a little bit of a Kentucky would be sky is falling if they hadn't gotten lucky with the win at LSU on Wednesday night. So give me the Vols.
That's where I'm at. I think we'll look back on what happened at LSU and be like, that was a neat thing that happened, but it didn't flip the season the way anybody would have hoped. I will also take Tennessee minus the 6. Game 2, Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern. It's UCLA at Ohio State inside the Greg Oden Center. You can watch it on CBS. It's America's most watched network. It's the network of stars. KenPom has it, Ohio State minus 3.
Hey, if you want to watch us preview this game twice, CBS Sports Network Friday night, Toledo at Kent State, Ohio at Ball State. We might have taped a halftime segment about this very matchup and about this very game. Get a little double dose of GP and Norlander on UCLA, Ohio State. This is a CBS Sports Classic game that is no more. UCLA is no longer in the rotation there, but of course it is a Big Ten matchup. Doesn't hit quite as weirdly as Duke at Cal or Duke at Stanford, but it'll have to suffice. Both of these teams have been underachievers. The problem with the game for the winning team here is that neither of these teams have a win over a projected surefire NCAA tournament team, Parrish, and that will still be the case after this game because the loser is not going to have an NCAA tournament resume. UCLA got the win on the road against Penn State on Wednesday night, and it was, plenty of breathing space in that one. Can they go for the back-to-back? You'll recall earlier this month they got dropped at Iowa and then at Wisconsin. This is the only other significant road trip that UCLA has until their last one to a different time zone, Michigan State, in a few weeks here. I'm going to take the team that's at home with the best player, and that is Bruce Thornton. And Ohio State, but Ohio State's been up and down and up and down. You go back to late November, Parrish. It's loss, win, loss, win, loss, win by game, win Rutgers. So essentially by game, loss, win, loss. So the pattern would suggest they're due for a win here. I'll take the Buckeyes to win and cover.
I heard Mick said he would get back involved in the CBS Sports Classic if they would agree to play it at the Intuit Dome annually.
Well, that's not
every year CBS Sports Classic inside the Intuit Dome. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah,
I actually didn't hear that. That's just something. That's just something I made up. I can't pick I can't pick Mick Cronin in the Eastern Time Zone inside the Greg Oden Center. This feels like a Get Diebler situation. Remember when Get Diebler was a thing?
Only you made it a thing. Yeah.
It was fun.
That's a thing because you said it on a podcast like 9 times in a row. Sure, I remember that.
That is how things. That's how things become things.
Yeah,
like we have
that's
that
how
power.
things become things.
That is how things become things. We have that power. We can just say stuff. Next thing you know, I'm out there just randomly getting asked to do peacock impersonations. I can't even walk down the street without somebody trying to pull me aside, asking me to act like a peacock. This is how things become things. See. This is how things become things. Get Diebler returns to college. Get Diebler. Diebler has been absent from college basketball lately.
Yeah.
The way it after bursting onto the scene.
I think we call that 3-point variance, but yeah, go ahead.
Got Diebler burst onto the scene. That's how you got the job. And then it's like disappeared just a little bit, but my prediction, it returns this weekend. Somebody's going to get Diebler this weekend, and that person is Mick Cronin in the Eastern Time Zone. He will be cranky about it. Game 3, Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern, number 19 Florida at number 10 Vanderbilt. Inside Kevin Stallings' gym.
Ooh.
He deserves that. He did good things there. Don't ever forget. You don't ever forget that. You can watch it on ESPN. KenPom has it Vanderbilt -3.
What a tasty game this is. And really, it becomes the game for SEC supremacy. Now, at this moment, Florida, Vandy, Arkansas, A&M, and Mizzou, those are your 3-1 teams. There is not an undefeated team left in the league. The only winless team is the aforementioned LSU Tigers. But the winner here is going to be in the catbird seat for SEC supremacy. Vandy gets the benefit in this one of hosting the Gators. See how they respond after that loss to Texas. JP, is this the game of the weekend?
I think so.
I
And
agree.
it's got to be up there pretty high on the biggest games at Vanderbilt since probably something to do with Kevin Stallings. And oh, by the way, projected co-favorites in the SEC now, according to KenPom, it is Florida and Vanderbilt. They're now projected to finish with the exact same record in the league, and that record would be good enough to share the regular season conference championship. So it is kind of a reminder that college basketball seasons can take a lot of different turns, because there is a point. I guess that point would have been when Florida started 5-4. And Xavier Lee could make a shot, and it was like, oh, no, they might have got this wrong. This is going to be one of the most disappointing teams in the country, because while everybody was talking about Kentucky and St. John's and whatever else, there was a moment where Florida was actually the team that was highest ranked in the preseason AP poll that had found itself unranked at some point. And now all that seems in the past. They've cracked the top 20 of the AP poll. And now, just if they play to expectations going forward, might hang another conference championship.
Sometimes games don't come down to a single statistical edge, but I do wonder if it happens here. Vanderbilt has a top 10 3-point defense. Florida ranks 353, 353rd out of 365 teams in 3-point accuracy. I do wonder if the 3-point shooting and the lack of prowess there for the Gators winds up being the difference here. I will take a third straight home favorite. Give me Vandy to win and cover.
I want to take Vandy too, but I just can't keep matching you like this.
You can. Come on over. Come on.
All right, let's go Vandy minus 3.
Christina Aguilera once sang, come on over.
Oh, man, Christina Aguilera, she sang a lot of stuff.
She did.
She sang a lot.
She was a genie in a bottle.
Oh, buddy, you ain't got to tell me. I watched all them videos. I know them videos.
We all did.
We all did. How could you not?
Let's keep it moving. We got like 5 minutes. Let's go.
Don't get me daydreaming about Christina Aguilera. Jesus Lord, put her in the no context thing. Let me pick out the picture.
Absolutely not. What's game 4?
I need to reestablish myself as a building truster. That's why I'm going with Kevin Stallings, Jim. Vanderbilt minus 3. Game 4 Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern. If Florida Vandy ain't the game of the weekend, this one might be. Number 11 BYU at number 15 Texas Tech inside Pat Knight Arena. You can watch it on ESPN. Ooh, it's a little number. KenPom has it. Texas Tech minus 1.
I only give Florida Vandy the slight edge because it's Vandy in a home game, big time. We just don't see it that often. Texas Tech has had some good ones, but Saturday is just stacked beyond belief. There's basically nothing on Sunday. The only thing on Friday is Baylor at Kansas tonight. We wait and see the Darren Peterson show and all that stuff. Saturday is just jammed, and you've got the NFL, obviously, as well. This is fantastic. You've got BYU on the road in a big spot. It's one on the road in league at K-State, won by 10, and then at Utah last weekend, won by 5. This is a big step up here. Toppin, Christian Anderson against DeBanza, Rob Wright, Richie Saunders. Just terrific. I'm so jacked for this game. Can't wait for it. This is an 8 Eastern. You said 8 Eastern tip here, GP?
8 p.m. Eastern.
Let's go.
Inside Pat Knight Arena.
That is fun stuff, big stuff. I will again, I will take the home favorite here. I will take McCaslin's group to get it done. JT Toppin is coming off an absurd stat line earlier this week, but this one has immense entertainment potential. Give me TTU.
Yeah, I'm a building truster. You know that. I'm reestablishing. I'm getting back to my core, getting back to my roots. Texas Tech minus 1. In all seriousness, Pat Knight Arena. He's going to be like, that's going to be a fun visual on Saturday night. Like that building. I've been there multiple times. I was there last season. When Texas Tech is good, that building is great. And Yeah, DeBonsa in a hostile environment. Terrific. What an awesome way to wrap up a Saturday night. Give me the and one.
The and one on a list that was very deep of candidates. I'm going with a critical Big East matchup. It is St. John's at Villanova on Saturday. This is an 8 p.m. Eastern tip on Peacock. I think I mentioned this on the show before. Reminder, if you have YouTube TV, you now have NBC Sports Network. You can watch the Peacock games on your TV in the quad box situation. So you can watch this right alongside BYU at Texas Tech. This is, as always, for Villanova home games on Kerry Kittle's court. Ken Palm has this Nova -1. I put you in a tough spot here. I admit it.
Okay. This is tough. St. John's is my preseason number 1. You might have heard about that. Don't know why we decided to make
number
that
1. I think it's now your in-season number 84.
Right. I don't know why we decided to make a thing out of St. John's being the preseason number 1, but buddy, we did it.
Yeah.
So I have also decided I hate them for what they've done to me. So I will hold on to that hate for another day at least. I'm taking Villanova minus the point.
I will go with the Johnnies to get it done on the road. But a true toss-up game here. These teams are both 5-1 in the Big East, by the way. So a game with some real leverage and both tracking toward NCAA tournament land. We'll see if they wind up getting there. That's another really fun one on a loaded Saturday. Before we get out of here, let me just give you a few more to keep an eye on because, yes, Saturday is it's just a big old day for hoops here. Stuff we didn't touch on randomly here. Arkansas plays at Georgia, 4 Eastern ESPN2. That's a tasty matchup. Virginia on the road against SMU is a good ACC battle. That's going to get it going at noon Eastern on Saturday on ESPN2. Iowa at Indiana, 2 Eastern on Fox. That's got some leverage to it. Mid-major flavor, 7 Eastern ESPN Plus. St. Mary's at Santa Clara is one we're turning into. Bama goes on the road against Oklahoma. Just keeping an eye on that one. Kind of a sneaky one. Miami at Clemson was the game I almost put in the Final Four and won. Miami is 15-2. Clemson right now, 15-3. Clemson has not lost in league play, and guess what? Neither has Miami. Both those teams are some nice surprises there, so they're looking good. Purdue has to travel out to L.A. It's going to play at USC, 6 Eastern on Peacock on Saturday. That's a good one. A&M plays at Texas, 6 Eastern on ESPN on Saturday. That's tasty. Arizona, undefeated watch. Arizona is on the road at UCF, 4 Eastern on Saturday. Nebraska on the road against Northwestern, 4 Eastern on Big Ten Network. Miami, Ohio is at home against Buffalo, the most likely team to come out of the weekend without a scar or a scratch in the loss column. There's even more, but that's a general scan of what should be a pretty packed and a pretty loaded show for us, GP, on, here's a heads up for you.
A heads up.
Sunday morning. I think we're going to target, 10 or 11 a.m. Eastern. We got the Bears on. Let's go Bears. We got the Bears Sunday night, and it is my wife's birthday. So Sunday afternoon is jam-packed for me, and there's no games of note. So we are going to give you a pod nice and early on Sunday, come off of what will be a very riveting Saturday worth of hoops. Mark it down. Join us live. Little eye on college basketball brunch episode. Change up the pace.
Yeah, ain't no sense in waiting until the afternoon when the temperatures are dipping and they're going to cover the greens anyway. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Absolutely. Yeah, GP couldn't get the round of golf in, so thankfully you'll have him and I both going early on Sunday morning. Which, to recap, I could see 13, 14 results worth diving into. It's a very, very fun, very awesome Saturday, in addition to the NFL playoffs, which will obviously occupy a lot of people's time.
All right, let's get out of here. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Terry Teagle. He's a legend. Huck Larnell. Thank you guys once again for watching, listening to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, Apple, Spotify. There's more of us than there are of them. That needs to be reflected in the comments. So do that, and we will talk to you again real soon. Till then, take care.